All right, come on, Ross. Do something. Get off your ass and do something. There's 2 hours
There's
left.
enough time.
There's 2 hours left in the MLB trade deadline. You got IKF, you can trade him. You got Chad Green, you should trade him.
Absolutely.
You got Trevor Richards, I don't know if anybody wants him.
Oh, sure they would.
And
reinvent the wheel.
Chris Bassett's scheduled to start today. When I'm seeing the prices that starting pitchers are getting, I'd be willing to trade Chris Bassett. It's Blair. Let's just trade everybody. It's Blair and Barker. It is Major League Baseball trade deadline day. 6 o'clock Eastern is the trade deadline. We'll have you covered right up to 6:35, right up to first pitch as the Jays take on the Baltimore Orioles. In and around all the trade deadline excitement, very quietly, my Toronto Blue Jays have won 4 of their last 5 games, Kevin Barker.
Huh. It's the best Vlad you've ever seen?
I was thinking about it yesterday, and I think Ben Schulman made the point there may have been a blip at the start of the 2020 or 2022 season, but no, this is the best I think I've seen him. In terms of getting back to every time he comes to the plate, I almost expect a home run. Haven't felt that way about Vladdy since way back when.
Yeah, it is just, you could close your eyes if you're a Blue Jays fan and just think about it. If they put a couple of bats around him to start the season, how this season could have actually went. What do you think of that? Like, to actually think that Vladdy not having to go up and think he has to carry a team, carry a country to a World Series, actually just go up and have it look the way it's been looking for the last month and some change?
Yep.
Just because he's got some bats around him that can do sort of somewhat similar to what he can do, help carry a team for a week at a time, give him time to get his feet wet and not have to think he has to go up and chase balls. What's the last time you saw him ground out to third? It's special stuff. That homer he hit in game 2, the line drive to center, when they panned over and showed his teammates, that's all you need to think about.
We're going to be joined by Shi Davidi in a few minutes. Jon Morosi, David Samson, Caleb Joseph, Geoff Blum will join us as well at 6 o'clock. We'll talk about the acquisition, I guess the big trade Ross Atkins made yesterday, trading Yusei Kikuchi to the Houston Astros. Now, I always throw this caveat out there. You know that anybody who tells you that they know what all these prospects are going to turn into is lying, because they really don't. But everybody, and I mean everybody in baseball, you know, all the national commentators watching the MLB network, they're all saying the same thing. They're all saying that in bringing in Jake Bloss, Joey Loperfido, and Will Wagner, that that Ross Atkins did really, really well in terms of a rental. And just to throw this out, you know, if you look at all the moves the Jays have made up to this deadline or up to now, they have all been designed to bolster the minor league system for the most part. And again, I'm not a big fan of minor league rankings, as you know, but the fact of the matter is the Jays have, according to MLB Pipeline, the Jays have added 7 players to their top 30. And I think it's safe to say that we'll probably see Bloss at some point this year. We should see Loperfido whenever the hell he gets to the team. And Jonathan Clase, we should also expect to see him as well. And kind of funny because Mark Boffo, our producer, pointed out that Jim Bowden, I mean, I guess it was back in May, was putting together a list of fantasy trades, and one of the fantasy trades he had was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. going to the Houston Astros for Joey Loperfido and another minor leaguer. So that shows you how much people thought about Loperfido back then. Let's bring in Shi Davidi, our MLB insider with Sportsnet. He is in Baltimore. He does have a game to cover tonight. And Shi, we're just, 4 wins and 5 is a pretty good run for this team, and it's almost like nobody's paying attention to it right now. What are you hearing about any potential moves the Blue Jays still make? We've got 2 hours left. We know that if we operate under the assumption that players under control are not on the block, Kevin Kiermaier would certainly be available. Trevor Richards would certainly be available. I mean, I've got to think that given what we're seeing in terms of relievers, I still have to think that a guy like Chad Green would be available. What are you hearing?
I think that you're kind of focused on the right guys in terms of Richards and Kiermaier. Those are, to me, the two primary pieces that the Blue Jays are still working on. Unless they've shifted their posture a little bit in the last little while, like the players with 1+ season of control are not really on the table for them at this point. So is it possible that someone wows them to the point that they have to do it? Sure. But we're starting to get to the end of the deadline. And, before today, there wasn't, to my understanding, a ton of legwork there. And the impression that I had after yesterday was that their heavy lifting was done. And so that really just leaves Kiermaier and Richards as the two main pieces that are in play for them right now.
Shi, are you surprised that where Yusei went, to what team he went to, and are you surprised at how much they got back for Yusei?
Not the team, but the return, sure. Mm-hmm. Ben Nicholson-Smith, Arden Zwelling, and I were having a conversation in the press box a few weeks back, and I kind of said, I wonder if the Jays could get one of Jake Bloss or Spencer Arrighetti from the Houston Astros, just thinking about a pitcher with just some long-term control who's touched the big leagues already, and whether that might be, the Jays have to put something else in the deal to get one of those guys from the Astros. And lo and behold, Jake Bloss is coming back, but he's coming with Loperfido and Wagner as well. And, I know there's been a lot of reaction to this, but even today I had one conversation with a couple of people, and they were just, again, flabbergasted at the return, saying that they couldn't wrap their mind around it. I got a text message from somebody else who called it absolutely insane. Wow. And so I think that where Yusei Kikuchi was, and this is not a knock on Yusei Kikuchi, but people just are surprised that it was this much. But that is the cost of pitching. You look at the deal the Orioles made for Rogers, and it's Stowers and Norby going back, and those are two good young players who've touched the big leagues already. Just prices are really, really high right now. And so the Blue Jays they kind of hit this skid at a good time from the perspective of selling their expiring contracts.
Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't they be actively shopping Chris Bassitt right now, for example? If this is what teams are willing to pay for rentals, Chris Bassitt does have some control. I would think, frankly, given the choice of Gausman and Bassitt, you'd probably go with Bassitt right now. I think he's been more consistent this year. Why on earth wouldn't they be at least really, really pushing to move him?
Well, I think there's a couple things there. So let's start with the first one, is that, the reads that I've had all along, I'm sure you guys have heard similar things, is that the Blue Jays, ideally, their hope is to put themselves in a position where they can compete again next year and try to take another run with the group. And the backbone of this team remains the starting rotation. And if you're going to try and get to the postseason next year, you're going to do it in large part thanks to the efforts of Kevin Gausman, Jose Barrios, and Chris Bassitt. So you can't sacrifice from that. You already have to backfill for Yusei Kikuchi. Alek Manoah blew out and is, for the most part, going to be a non-factor next year, or at least for a significant period of time while he recovers. So, there's only so much that you could take away from that rotation if your intent is to try and compete again the next year. The other piece to kind of keep in mind, and this applies to both Bassitt and Green, is that, yes, they have 1+ year of control, but not every team can afford $21 million next year for Bassitt, and not every team can afford $10.5 million for Chad Green next year, right? So the salary is a big piece of that. And again, those are both guys who the Blue Jays would need if they're going to be a competitive club next year. So I think those are the two elements that you hit. And look, if there was a home run deal out there that the Blue Jays simply couldn't say no to, I'm sure that they would take it. But my understanding, again, and that could have changed and that could change, but there wasn't any sort of serious engagement that would lead to the point where something's put on the table that they have to really think about it.
Shi, higher upside, Loperfido or Bloss?
Interesting question. I think the way that I would look at it, Kev, is that I think Bloss is the harder asset to get, right? Like, let's say he does fulfill the potential and he's even a back of the rotation starter. I mean, those are just hard to acquire. And he's going to have 6 years of control after this. I mean, that's, if he hits, that's a really good asset. But Loperfido can be a pretty good player. Yeah, I think at minimum, he's a utility guy who can bounce around and do a bunch of things for you. But it's a potentially unique blend of like power and speed. And it's not one thing that wows you, but he does everything well. And so I think, again, because of the rarity, you go with the starting pitcher in Bloss. And it's also like Bloss has come really, really fast. And I wonder if the Blue Jays may want to rein that back a little bit and maybe not rush him to the big leagues quite as much. I mean, this guy was just drafted last year. He's been at 4 levels this year. Maybe it's just, hey, here, go to AAA for a little bit and figure yourself out for a period of time. But I think ultimately, if you turn Bloss into a starting pitcher, that they're just so hard. That's just so hard to do that to me is probably the more valuable piece.
Yep. I was going to say, given the way this organization shreds arm in the minors, I might want to get him up here as soon as possible.
You said it.
Well,
I told you not to.
Well, so by the end of this year, will we have seen Loperfido in your mind? I understand that the things can be different here, but do you think in the very least we'll see Loperfido, Clase, and Bloss at the end of the year, that they'll be up here in September?
Well, we're going to see Loperfido tomorrow.
Okay.
I would think he was traveling today, so I don't think he was able to get to Baltimore in time to be active for this game. But yeah, I'm reasonably certain we'll see Clase A at some point. Maybe Loperfido being here delays that for a period of time. They've also got Stuart Baroa here.
Right.
So they've got. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around how all the pieces are going to look and who's going to get some opportunity, who's going to get some run, how they're going to parcel out playing time. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is moving fast in his rehab, so he's going to be knocking on the door and he's going to be back in play too. So there are a lot of moving parts here in terms of how everything is going to work. So I'm not sure exactly on the timelines and how they're going to divvy up opportunity, but I would expect to see all those guys. And, Bloss too, I'll repeat what I just said before, just given how quickly he's moved through the system and knowing that the Blue Jays in general like to be a bit more on the conservative side with their development path on pitchers especially. I wonder if maybe they cool it with him for a little bit and just give him some time to get his feet beneath him in one spot.
Shi, look, Ross Atkins went into this trade deadline. This front office went into the trade deadline under a lot of heat from the media, from the fans. Can Ross Atkins save his job at this deadline? Or was that even, well, let me rephrase that. Did he need a good trade deadline to quote unquote save his job?
Well, let's put it this way. I think this organization absolutely needed a good trade deadline, irrespective of what you're doing with the front office. But I think you also have to look at this here in terms of, the analogy I used yesterday. So the Blue Jays were essentially a house there where the foundation was rotting. It kind of nobody noticed or really paid attention. And then this year, when the main floor, things started going on the main floor, the foundation was so rotten that everything collapsed from the inside, right? And that's why the Blue Jays are where they are. And so does this one trade deadline undo everything else that's happened? No, right? I mean, this is, if the Blue Jays really want to compete in 25, like there's an entire bullpen that needs to be redone pretty much. There's at least one, if not two spots in the rotation that need to be filled. And, I think we this definitely got lost yesterday, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had one of the greatest single-day offensive performances in franchise history yesterday.
7 for 10,
with
4
2
runs.
homers, 3 doubles, 7 hits. Yeah, it's a bananas day. And I think what gets lost too, just sort of look at the lack of established impact around him in the lineup as he was doing that. So if the Blue Jays want Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to be as productive as he can be, like, he's going to need compliments in that lineup. And it can't just be Bo Bichette when he gets healthy. It needs to be more than that too, if the Blue Jays are really going to be significant factors in 25. So there's a lot of work for this organization to do. Does one deadline negate all the different elements that got you here? I don't think so. Does it maybe change perception enough that the front office feels comfortable sticking with what they've got now? It's possible. And the other piece of this too is that there's some bigger contracts that need to get decided as well. Mark Shapiro, the president and CEO, his contract is up at the end of 2025. And if you're going to make some changes, well, are you letting him put some people in place who are going to be under contract beyond him if you're not totally committed to him yet? So I think there's just a lot of dominoes here that aren't lined up. And at some point, you got to figure out some of the bigger pieces before some of the other elements start getting locked in.
Better chance of happening, they sign this Vladdy or Bo gets traded?
What about both?
Yeah.
I could certainly see a scenario that both happen. I think ultimately, if the Blue Jays are intent on trying to make a run again in 25, right, then you've got to try and lock up Vladimir Guerrero Jr. this offseason meaningfully, right? And I think right now, because of circumstances and all of just where he's at individually, there is more incentive and perhaps more ability for him to sign that deal right now than there is with Bo Bichette. I think if you're coming off the type of season that Bo Bichette has had, do you want to do an extension right now? And if you're the Blue Jays, can you afford to go into next year with Bo Bichette unsigned? And how are you going to, again, add and augment in and around Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? That's probably your best opportunity. Now, I think if you felt that there was enough of a pathway to find a way to extend both players, to me, that's the ideal. You trade Bo Bichette, you're going to spend a bunch of time trying to recreate him, and you really can't. That's an elite talent, and I think that's gotten lost a fair bit. Like, it's really, really hard to acquire players like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette. Everyone who's selling right now at the deadline is hoping that somebody makes a mistake and gives up one of those guys. Contending clubs are really smart. They're not trying to give up those types of players. They're trying to keep them. And so I think in the best circumstance, the Blue Jays are finding a way to extend them both. But I think to protect yourself as a franchise, it's really risky to go into next year with both those players unsigned and even one of those players unsigned.
Back to the iPhone, Shi.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, man.
Thanks, buddy. You're awesome.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Take care. Shi Davidi in Baltimore. And again, 6:35 tonight, the Jays and Orioles.
Threw me a curveball with signing them both. Didn't think that'd be the answer. I just Bo's very unhappy. You can see it. Like, you just see the way he walks around, the way he acts. I mean, we haven't seen him in a while, but the last time we saw him, like, I would think that's the first step, right? Is you got to get him in a room and just iron out whatever the heck is going on between the two parties.
No, listen, I think
money would help.
I think Shi hit the nail on the head. There's going to be a lot of focus on Vladdy's contract and Bo's contract. I tend to think that the contract, that Mark Shapiro's contractual situation is as much a factor because he is under contract through 2025, as Shi said. John Schneider and Ross Atkins are under contract past 2025. And the timelines are a little tricky when it comes to who gets to make the call on Vladdy and Bo, who gets to make the call on the general manager and by extension the manager. I found it interesting that the deal with the Astros brought back two players that James Click drafted. And it reminded me a little bit of when Mark Shapiro was making the decisions for the Cleveland Guardians, and he made the Bartolo Colon deal and got Grady Sizemore, Cliff Lee, and Brandon Phillips from the Montreal Expos. One of his secret weapons, if you want to call it that, was Tony LaCava, who had been with the Expos, was between jobs, and essentially Mark and Tony is a good baseball man, and Mark just said, "Look, come and help us." And that insight, that intelligence paid off with that deal. I mean, that was a deal that basically helped, if not resurrect the Cleveland franchise. Grady Sizemore and Cliff Lee. I mean, if Grady Sizemore had stayed healthy, I mean, he was one of the, just flat out one of the best all-around players I've seen, and a lot of people felt that way. So what would be really interesting to know is how much Mark Shapiro has been involved in this trade deadline, how much James Click has been involved in this trade deadline, because I'd been told by somebody in another organization that person was under the impression that Mark was having a bigger hand in this trade deadline than he'd had in the past.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what that means. It wouldn't surprise me. We've kind of been told that since the stadium refurbishment has been done, that Mark's focus has been a little more on the team, on the field. But that's the question. Who makes the call on Vladdy? And someone threw this out at me the other day. We know from talking to Vladdy's people that there really hasn't been a great deal of traction with this front office when it comes to a long-term contract. Does a new voice need to come into the room and hasten that process?
And does this Vladdy change it?
And does this Vladdy change it?
Yeah. It would change my mind.
There's a lot going on, and quite frankly, he's a year away from free agency. I'll tell you this: Vladdy's probably not going to lose money by not signing with the Blue Jays next year.
No.
Right? I mean, let's be honest.
And if you're trying to run this thing back and you're putting a lot on his shoulders and you bring in another bat to try and do it, which is what they're going to do, and you're going to see the best of Vladdy going into next year, actually starting next year. It makes too much sense, I would think.
Vladdy Shy, we didn't mention this. Vladdy was 7 for 10 with 4 runs, 2 home runs, and 5 RBI.
I said it. Sometimes all you got to do is look at his teammates.
When his teammates have their mouth up. Springer, when he hit that home run.
Dude, I've been telling you this forever. Like, if he had somebody around him that would take a little bit of pressure off him and just let Vladdy be free and easy Vladdy, like he is now, when there's no expectations, nothing riding on anything, you just go up, see ball, hit ball, and you're catching it out front the right time consistently. Man, line to line, boy, it's fireworks. I mean, it's must watch. Right now, you got to be honest. Even if you weren't a Vladdy fan, when he's come to the plate, I mean, tonight is going to be something.
The trade deadline expires or ends occurs. The deadline occurs at 6:00. Most of the deals today have been kind of around the edge deals. I'm just looking at some of the Mets getting Paul Blackburn, Trevor Rogers going to the Orioles, Andrew Chafin going to the Rangers. It's interesting because you're seeing a lot of teams, and again, we're an hour and a half away from the deadline. Like Texas, are they in or out? They've kind of acted both ways. Houston is apparently in line they're talking to the Rays for Yandy Diaz. The whole thing with Garrett Crochet is still kind of up in the air. Is Blake Snell get moved?
Scooble Orioles, that thing.
Scooble, yeah. I mean, I would think I think that I've never put much stock in that, to be honest. I mean, I don't know why, if you're the Tigers, there's no pressure to trade Scooble at all at this point in time. I'm just trying to see if there are any other moves.
What did the Dodgers do?
Paul DeJong went to the Kansas City Royals.
Why do you look at me like that?
Well, Paul DeYoung.
He's a veteran guy.
He's a veteran guy.
He can.
Maybe he'll do for the Royals what he did for the Jays last year in their.
That's not great. That's not very nice.
Well, he didn't do much, to be honest. Let's be clear. So JT Chargois going to the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners kind of filling in around the edges as well. And, Lucas Erceg going to the Royals for the Royals' number 4 prospect and their number 18 prospect again. Now, Erceg is controllable, so but that's still a nice return for the Athletics. And again, if I'm the Jays, I mean, I've really got to be looking at moving Chad Green and maybe even IKF right now. Maybe even IKF.
Well, I would think his value's never been higher. I mean, I understand he's coming off the IL and he'll be off it soon. Like, it seems to me like he's healthy. I would assume that you'd have to sell that to a team that's interested in IKF. But if you're a veteran team looking for a guy who can play multiple positions at a high level, I mean, IKF, if he's healthy, why not? And all of a sudden now with the bat, the ball skills, and hitting the ball up the middle the way he is.
Yeah, that the Orioles deal we talked about, by the way, I think the Marlins did pretty well. They got rid of Trevor Rogers, didn't get rid of, but they traded Trevor Rogers for Connor Norby and Kyle Stowers. Norby and Stowers both they'll both be in the majors with the Marlins. They've been in the majors this year at times with the Orioles. And again, the Orioles, Norby, I think, was their number 4 prospect. I mean, the Orioles are. It sounds very much as if they're going to come out of this trade deadline with their top guys still intact. But this is kind of an interesting deal yesterday, I thought. The Braves getting Jorge Soler and Luke Jackson from the Giants for Tyler Matzik and Sabine Ceballos. Basically, Alex Anthopoulos bringing back.
Yeah, they're familiar.
A couple of guys. Yeah. And Alex is another guy. You know, I'm keeping an eye on him for the next hour and a half because I don't believe that Alex believes that his team is out of the wild card race by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, they're leading the wild card in the National League. I just don't know if he thinks they're good enough to beat the teams that are ahead of him.
Justin Turner,
that's what it is.
Of course, was traded to the Mariners yesterday. And as we said, the bottom line is with all these Jays acquisitions so far, Joey Loperfido, you heard Shi Davidi say he will join the team in Baltimore in time for tomorrow, probably. I mean, they've got a 12:35 game, so I would think there's a chance that he plays tomorrow. And the other players, Jonathan Clase, I've been told will probably be up at some point. But as you know, Shi said, there's Stuart Burrow. I mean, there's a bunch of guys right now, and the Jays may want to let
that kind of thing. That would help too. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there's some other things. I mean, some of these players, I believe, are Rule 5 eligible. So some of these minor leaguers, the Jays picked up.
40.
But bottom line is they've gotten some depth for their minor league system, and we're just told that Trevor Richards has been traded to the Minnesota Twins. Just being Ken Rosenthal reporting that Minnesota Twins, they acquired Trevor Richards from the Blue Jays. Ken Rosenthal, no word yet as to the return.
Yeah,
that's obviously well. I mean, we've talked about Trevor Richards. I mean, I almost feel like giving Trevor Richards a standing ovation right now because I can't think of a guy in the last 2 years that did more for this team pitching, filled as many roles, took the ball whenever he wanted it.
Yeah, they
basically did it with one pitch.
Yeah, they
two
abused
pitches.
Him. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think he's throwing harder since the break, which is a big deal. I think them not having to put him in the 9th, 8th, and even maybe the 7th inning, like he could sort of be that hybrid 5th and 6th inning guy and come in and pitch to the bottom of the order, and then he gets hot and healthy and confident that way, and it's just a change of scenery. You know, look, maybe it's just having a set role. That might be the one thing, right? It wasn't his fault that the bullpen, the front office basically gave up on the bullpen and just didn't do anything to help it out, and that included Trevor Richards. So hopefully he goes to the Twinkies. That's a bigger park, right? It's maybe you'll have a little bit better chance of keeping it in the yard. You know, the changeup's just not changing. And when it ain't changing, it puts more emphasis on location of the fastball, and, that's not so much him. So hopefully he goes there. I root for him. It's hard not to.
Let us take a break and come back with Jon Morosi of the MLB Network. Again, 90 minutes till the expiration or till the arrival of the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Breaking news from Ken Rosenthal and various sources. The Minnesota Twins have acquired Trevor Richards from the Blue Jays. So maybe we'll get word about the return. Maybe we'll have word about the return when we come back, and we'll also keep you informed as to any other moves. We're here up to and past the deadline. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet. All right, it is Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, the fan, the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet. A little less, I should say, than 90 minutes before the Major League Baseball trade deadline. The Toronto Blue Jays just making a deal. Trevor Richards is off to the Minnesota Twins for Jay Harry, a sixth-round pick in 2023, 22 years old. He's playing at high A right now, shortstop, second baseman, third baseman. Kevin, he hits left. Mm-hmm. There's a theme with these minor leaguers that this organization's collecting, isn't it?
Yeah, they need them. Like we've
lefty hitter, switch hitter.
Absolutely. I mean, sooner or later, if you get enough of them, you're going to hit on one of them, right? I think that's the whole goal here is get as many as you can, and fingers crossed that one of them pans out.
And Tanner Scott, the Marlins closer, has just been traded to the San Diego Padres. So that is the latest we have so far. Again, Jay Harry, a high A infielder, joining the Blue Jays organization in return for Trevor Richards.
And good for Trevor. They did him a solid.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, he earned it. He's going to a good team. He's going to have a chance. Good for him.
Let's go to Jon Morosi, MLB Network, MLB Insider. Mr. Morosi, thank you for doing this. I know it's very busy. Give us the high sign if you need to scoot. Hey, what you've got your ear to the ground in terms of the industry. What was the industry's reaction to the Kikuchi deal? Was it as surprised as we're led to believe?
I think so. There was not the expectation, I think, going into this that the Jays would be able to get a prospect either individually of Loperfido's caliber or Bross's caliber. And, of course, they got both in addition to Wagner as well. So I think collectively the Jays did exceptionally well with this trade. Now, it's important to evaluate things in the overall long-term context, but if you're talking about have the Jays done a good job of optimizing their talent at this year's deadline, to this point, the answer is yes. And I think that when you consider what the Jays have done to bring in some younger and predominantly, as you both know, it's been a lot of position players coming in, that what they've done is effectively they've bought themselves a bit more time in development and allowing themselves to keep Vladdy and to keep Bo for the start of 2025 and not feel like they've missed an opportunity to upgrade their team and make it better for the long term. In other words, by getting better returns for Kikuchi and for Jimmy Garcia, for example, they've bought themselves a chance to give it another try next year. With some younger players, maybe a bit more of an athletic team, yes, they're going to have to make still, I think, some additions to their pitching staff in the offseason. But at the moment, they still have Bassett, they still have Gossman. Rodriguez hopefully becomes a more reliable starter in the future. You can look at what they've got right now and say to yourself, with a better, healthier year from Bo, with maybe a faster start from Vlad, who certainly is more than made up for it, you can look at a competitive team in 2025.
The Padres, by the way, sending their number 2 prospect, left-handed pitcher Robbie Snelling, and their number 4 prospect, this according to MLB Pipeline, Adam Mazur, to the Marlins for Tanner Scott. And that's interesting because Adam Mazur, there was a report yesterday that the Padres were interested in Kikuchi, and Adam Mazur was the name that had been linked with the Blue Jays. Of course, Kikuchi since then being traded to the Houston Astros. John, given the understanding the Jays want to compete next year, I get that.
Right.
But given the price or given the return teams are getting for starting pitchers, why on earth wouldn't the Blue Jays be actively trying to trade Chris Bassett right now?
Mm-hmm. That's an excellent question. And I think that there may be, and what I was told at the very outset of this trading season by a Jays source was that, listen, we're open-minded to a lot of different proposals, but if it's going to be for players that are under control for 2025, you're going to have to effectively pay a premium if we're going to diminish the quality of our team. I don't think that any team has been comfortable going to that level quite yet. Now, certainly we still have an hour and 20 minutes in which someone can surprise us. I personally had thought that the Mets with Bassett could have been a really good possibility, but of course they've gone out and added Paul Blackburn. I was told earlier today there was nothing hot happening right now between the Jays and Mets on Bassett. So your question is excellent. I just think that because there were enough other pitchers out there, and again, we'll see what happens in the next hour and 20 minutes, but like the likes of Paul Blackburn, Jack Flaherty is still out there, hasn't been traded yet, which to me is very curious. He was scratched from the start basically 24 hours ago by the Tigers. It still hasn't been traded. That seems a little odd to me. So I do think there's just enough supply out there of starting pitchers, and Rogers, who moved from Miami to Baltimore, was another example. Eflin. So both Eflin and Rogers had some control on them, and the Orioles acquired both. I do think that the returns for those pitchers, especially Rogers today, would suggest to me that the price of controllable arms is quite high, and the Blue Jays, albeit quietly, may be assessing that right now, but obviously nobody has made an offer that is compelling enough to them at the moment.
JP, give me a team that's left over that you think might make a big move here that will change their season, change the outcome of their season.
Well, two teams right now. The Dodgers, they still need some starting pitching help. You know, we've talked a lot about where they might go, and they added Michael Kopech yesterday in that 3-team deal with the White Sox. But when you look at their rotation at the moment, it's Glasnow, Kershaw, Stone, Robleski, and River Ryan. Certainly some promising names in there, and River Ryan's been great since coming up. But the question is, are you going to win a World Series with that group? And if the answer is no, you got an hour and 20 minutes to make a move and change that. So I think the Dodgers are certainly still trying. I'm here in Philadelphia right now for the Yankees and Phillies tonight. The Yankees, I believe, they're still trying to add, and they could really improve their club in any number of ways. Garrett Cole actually tonight's being scratched from his start because of general fatigue. He's supposed to still make a start on the weekend, but we'll see. We'll see where they're at. I think that their rotation early on in the season looked tremendous. It's fallen off a bit. They're now in a very close race with Baltimore. Baltimore has added 2 different starting pitchers. The Yankees, they got Mark Leiter Jr. That's a really intriguing arm that they got in. But I would say that they still have some moves to make, and I wouldn't even be surprised to see them make a move with their bullpen as well. I think on the selling side, the Tigers need to do more. They've been clearly a seller for a while now. They've traded Andrew Chafin. They've traded Carson Kelly. But that can't be all they do today. They need to do more if they want to at least position themselves better for the future, because the other teams in their division, Cleveland, Minnesota, Kansas City, they're all better than Detroit right now. And I'm a little surprised to see the Tigers still on the sidelines.
You mentioned the Yankees. Luis Gil, their ace today.
He is right now. I think just based on the way that Cole has struggled to regain his form, and yet you look at I think the way the game unfolded last night. You know, he is someone that I put a lot of faith in. I mean, Luis Gil is I think his pure fastball. He throws, and Tom Verducci talked about this in the broadcast last night. He challenges guys with fastballs, and he is not afraid at all to really attack players with fastballs because of just how much it moves and how hard of a time even a good fastball hitting team like the Phillies, with some significant lefty bats like Harper and Schwarber, they were not able to have much success against him. So I think right now he is their ace, and I think because he's their ace and because he really is still in an area, Kevin, where he has not had this workload at the major league level before, that is why they still have to be in the market to add one more arm to help that rotation out, because it's a good rotation, but with the right addition, whether it is a Flaherty or a Crochet, it can become a great rotation.
Are you convinced that Garrett Crochet will not go at the deadline?
I am not convinced. I think it's a toss-up at this juncture. I think part of the calculus might also be that that the White Sox are seeing that more than likely Tarek Skubal is not going to be traded right now by the Tigers. And so if that's the case, then you've got the best, most electrifying, controllable arm out there. And the fact that his agency put that information out there about his desire to get the extension this offseason or this season, if he's going to pitch in the postseason, may have actually animated some teams to say, wait a minute, we could maybe get him at a little bit of a discount as long as we give him that extension that we want right now.
John, we're going to let you run, man. Yep. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much.
Thanks, buddy.
Be well.
All the best, my friends. Happy deadline day. Thank you so much.
Have a fun last hour. That's Jon Morosi of the MLB Network. That, by the way, I think is the practice of the anthem.
Yeah,
I do believe. Further information on who San Diego gave up. They also gave up their number 5 prospect, a infielder, outfielder, Graham Pauley. So the San Diego Padres, again, minor league rankings are only worth so much. They gave away their 2nd, 4th, and 5th prospect for a closer. And that is, A.J. Preller. A.J. Preller acts like a guy who doesn't expect to have his job tomorrow. So
I think he's looking around the National League, right? The Dodgers not as good as everybody thought they were. The Braves are not as good as everybody thought they were. The Phillies, I look occasionally, if you pitch the right guy against that team, they're gettable. Like, you go in running into the playoffs with the right dudes, the manager's handing the ball to. Why not? If not now, when? That's what I'm going to say to you, buddy.
The Marlins are basically, they're Marlins.
They're the White Sox of the National League.
Well, I think they might be a little smarter than the White Sox.
You think?
I think so. We'll see. David Samson, former executive, I should say, of the Marlins, will join us. He's host of Nothing Personal, the podcast. Caleb Joseph will be along. Geoff Blum will join us as well. We'll take a deeper dive into what the Jays got from the Houston Astros for Yusei Kikuchi. And again, the Astros look very much as if they are a team that is still going to be busy. There's still a lot of talk about the Astros and Yandy Diaz. How'd you like Yandy Diaz's swing in that ballpark?
Yeah. I mean, that's what you do, right? You're trying to outscore people. I just don't think when you give up as many guys as the Astros give up, and then you hear your manager come out and say that he's excited to get Yusei Kikuchi with our pitching department as we can make some adjustments on how he pitches and how he can be more efficient. That's a lot of people to give up for a guy that you don't think is going to hit the ground running. Yeah. That's the only part of that whole thing. I've been telling you this for a while. Yusei's great. He's a great dude. He throws super hard. He don't got a secondary pitch.
No, but
how do you do that?
You know as well as I do.
He gets annihilated Minute Maid too, by the way.
People do believe in that fastball.
They do, but you better locate it if you don't got a secondary pitch, right? It doesn't mean as much if you can't throw a slider where you want, a curveball where you want, or at least occasionally mix in a changeup. I mean, he doesn't throw that thing anymore. The curveball's getting hammered, and the slider, I think it's predictable. So I think, again, it's just going to be real intriguing to see. It looks to me like they're trying to win the West with Yusei. Once they get to the playoffs, hopefully everybody that they're counting on to win the World Series is healthy again, and then they can line it up and make the run that they're going to make when they make it, right?
Yes. 6 o'clock Eastern is the Major League Baseball trade deadline, and of course, for the past couple of years, it really has been a deadline. It's not like the old days where you could kind of sneak guys through after it. The Blue Jays, if you're just joining us, have made one deal today. Trevor Richards being traded to the Minnesota Twins for a high A infielder, Jay Harry, Chad Green, Kevin Kiermaier, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, all names that have been out there in one form or another. They are still with the Blue Jays. And as a reminder, both Chad Green and IKF are under contract through next year as well. So as we have said and as we have seen, there is an added value to acquiring players with some additional control as opposed to rentals. And that's one of the reasons that so many people were so surprised at the return the Jays got for Yusei Kikuchi, because he is a rental. Where else do we need to go here with the Blue Jays? I haven't even looked to see if the lineup's out yet. I'm sure it is. Entertain the masses, Barker, while I look for the
What do you want me to say?
I'll say something. Say something optimistic. Say something optimistic.
Okay, well, we can go. Let's go to the lineup we saw last night. Anybody? Okay, Ernie Clement changed your mind about going into next year with what you've seen him now consistently playing. Made an adjustment to the curveball.
He has been on my bench for next year all along.
The bench. Maybe he wiggles his way into not being all the time a bench guy. That's all I'm saying. Like you like what he does to baseballs. You like when the ball's hit to him, right? He went through a little low when it come to moving his feet and following his throw, and he got past that because he's struggling a little bit offensively. The league had made an adjustment, mentally trying to work through that to stay on the field, stay in the big leagues.
No Jays lineup.
I like that. There's a lot to fill in the blanks there when it comes to that. That lineup. So,
who are the guys? Okay, let's talk about a subset of players in this organization: Stuart Baroa, Leo Jimenez, Davis Schneider, Ernie Clement.
Yep. Ernie's on my team for sure. He's short, quick. He's predictable. Like, I can throw him at third. I could probably throw him, I'd say, at second if I needed to. I could even put him at short if I wanted to. I think most of the time he'll catch the ball. He's got a decent enough arm. It's accurate enough. He's going to make the plays he should be making. Not going to hurt my team there. He can hit a line drive. Big part of the field. I think that's a big deal.
Has really... I don't even know why.
He's a switch hitter. I think that's the one thing, and he's fast.
And he'll steal a base.
I like you. Like, whenever you're hearing, people say that, look out, he's running. Like,
one of the things.
When's the last time people said that about the Blue Jays?
And one of the things I really dislike is, when a dude comes up from the minors and everybody says, "Boy, this guy tore it up in the minors, stealing bases." And then
you never see it.
And then you never see it. Then you see you got to put a hit and run on with this guy instead. And you never see that. And I do like what I've seen from him. Again, doesn't scream everyday player to me. I don't know if any of those guys do. I know Davis Schneider was the flavor of the month for a while.
He earned it.
Yeah, he did. But
now he's not a tough out. Like, I think that's what you're trying to. The being right-handed, it's not the easiest thing to do. They're telling you that. Now, again, most of the names that they're getting here is not going to jump off the page, but it does jump off the page.
Somebody's going to lose playing time to Loperfido.
Well, it does jump off the page that he's left-handed and he throws right-handed, right? That means he can play multiple sides of the field, and if you need to run him in the infield, you could probably do that. Like, they're trying to do things because they want left-handed hitters in here. They need balance. That hard thrower that can throw a slider away to a righty, boy, that'd give a bunch of dude headaches. So, again, the only thing you worry about Loperfido, and I said this to you when we were sitting in the room and they're talking about what they gotten, is he's going to need to make some adjustments. Like he breaking ball. That is his sort of kryptonite. And the woes that they've went through consistently all year is how quickly and how can they make mechanical changes to help these dudes get better quicker. That's the only thing. They've had issues with that, whether it's just talent in the coaching staff or they just don't know what they're doing. This is sort of what you want to see with this guy, right? It seems like he's got talent, but he does cut himself off with his lower half, which will sort of eye pop tell you why he has some issues with the breaking ball, right? Or where the barrel needs to go to hit that thing consistently and keep it linked through the zone in the big part of the field. So, there's a little bit of hope right here. If he got hot, showed you something, he could be your left fielder. Now you move Varsho to center. Now you're cooking with gravy. Now that's something you don't have to worry about in the offseason. He's left-handed. Maybe he could hit sixth in your order. He's got a decent enough speed. He's 6'3", 220. Like, he's a big dude. Got leverage. Mm-hmm. It's up to the coaching staff now to consistently show him how to use it. Let's see him figure it out. So I'm interested to see that. How's that? That's positive.
That is positive. That's very well done.
To some degree. I'm not real positive about the 19 hitting coaches and the
that's what I said. I was
4,300 khakis, but yeah.
You lost me at the hitting coaches. Nicely done. There is a little more than an hour left in the trade deadline. There's an hour and a half left in Blair and Barker. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, it is the final hour of the Major League Baseball trade deadline. 6:35 is the first pitch tonight in Baltimore as the Blue Jays and the Orioles continue their series. The Jays splitting the doubleheader yesterday, and that series will wrap up tomorrow with an afternoon game. But, of course, all the focus right now is on the trade deadline. The Jays have made a deal today, sending Trevor Richards to the Minnesota Twins for Jay Harry, who is and I know I'm going to call him Harry J at some point, but Jay Harry, who is a high, well, I am. He's a high A infielder. I mean,
Respect him.
I do respect him.
It's not
but I'm
his
just
name.
saying,
It's not his name.
Well, I don't like.
How do you talk about me when I'm not around?
Yeah, but you don't have two first names.
Well,
You don't have two first names.
that's so?
You shouldn't be allowed to have two first names.
No.
No.
It's his life.
I suppose. Actually, I have two first names, come to think of it. Anyhow, the deadline, as
Blair
we
and
said,
Jeff.
goes up till 6 o'clock. Chad Green and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa are two names that people
Chad needs to be traded.
people are keeping an eye on in terms of the Blue Jays trading them. Kevin Kiermaier as well. And, I mean, I guess, if you really want to play fantasy baseball, taking a look at what pitchers are yielding in return, maybe Chris Bassett would be out there. But Chris Bassett, as far as we know, is still scheduled to start tonight. Let's bring in someone who is no stranger to trade deadlines. He's a former MLB executive with the Marlins and Expos, host of Nothing Personal, the podcast with David Samson. He is David Samson. My God.
Wow, you look good.
That
Doesn't it?
jacket.
Oh, it's nice.
It's deadline day, baby.
It's a great jacket. I'm just
jealous.
I am.
Yeah, Jeff could never pull that off, David.
Well, no.
No chance.
Well, that's because he has two first names.
That is true. I do. You have to be,
So do
that
I.
is, yeah. Actually, that's true. You do. Anyhow, hey, so all these players are moving. All these prospects are moving. So far, and again, I understand prospect ratings are only worth a certain amount. But David, so far, one of the top 100 prospects has moved. I think Robbie Snelling of the San Diego Padres, number 44. So this always amazes me. I understand how valuable prospects are, but what does it say that with all this going on, teams are still really reluctant to trade that guy, to trade their number one dude?
Because at the end of the day, they really don't know the value. And so here's the crazy part is we spend time, analytics, everyone is valuing. There's websites that give you the value of a trade. Was it a good trade? Was it a bad trade? And it really is all a bunch of horse hockey. People are scared because the best currency in baseball is overperforming young players. It's what you need to win. It's like in football here in the NFL, you have to try to win with a younger quarterback versus the $50 million one, unless you're Patrick Mahomes. And so when you're sitting in the room and you're being asked to trade your prospects for a rental, like look what the Padres did. They sent 4 prospects to the Marlins for Tanner Scott, who's going to be there for half a season. And I did that. I loved doing that because I didn't really value my prospects because I wanted to win at that moment. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But there's one thing I'll tell you. Everybody's after this. You want the ring. And the way you get the ring is you've got to get to October, but then you've got to get lucky. And you've got to do it in a way with the 2-out RBI or some sort of amazing pitching performances by starters who you didn't expect to move to the bullpen. There's myriad ways that rings happen. A walk-off home run off a closer like a Mitch Williams. So many things. But this is the time right now where you look at your owner and say, we're doing this now, but don't bother me next year when you're angry that we're thinned out. And if you can get an owner to agree to that, to go for it, if you will, then you get some of the trades that you're seeing right now.
So we shouldn't be shocked at what Dana Brown with the Astros gave the Blue Jays for Yusei Kikuchi.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I'd be shocked if they didn't make a trade like that because what's Kikuchi? I mean, we talked about him. I'm surprised if they were trading him, that they started him. There's no upside for that at all. For me, when I look at the Astros, what's happening is they want to keep that dynasty going. They've been to the LCS, 7 straight years? Don't tell me that our dynasty's over. Let's keep going. With so many injuries to their rotation, bring in a mid-rotation guy, and maybe you'll get hot. and pitch like a 2 or 3, but he's certainly not a number 1. He's really not a number 2, but having depth matters.
What is the commodity teams are most likely to overpay for at the deadline? Is it starting pitching?
No, it's relief pitching.
Relief pitching.
And here's why. Because owners are terribly emotional. When your team blows a save, it feels so bad. And when you're an executive, you've got to have a short memory. When you're a player, you have to have a short memory. But owners lose their minds because fans lose their minds because you just feel like, oh my God, we were winning. And then all of a sudden we lost. And so what owners will say is, shore up my bullpen. And the bad teams do it during the offseason. That's not the time to build your bullpen. Now's the time. You trade for hot arms and hope that they stay hot. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But bullpen is what teams really, really try to do.
One of the things that has always interested me about bullpens at the trade deadline, and maybe this goes back to paying too much attention to what Felipe Alou used to say, but one of the things he always used to say is, and everybody says, the team stinks, let's get rid of everybody in the bullpen because you really don't need a closer. It doesn't matter. You're going to win what? You're going to win 91 games, not 91. You're going to win 81 games instead of 79 with a closer. But when you're putting a product on the field, David, and it is in a refurbished ballpark, and I'm thinking of the Blue Jays here, and it is a TV product, there's nothing worse than a sloppy 3-hour and 20-minute bullpen game with a bunch of disposable arms giving up home runs. Like that, it's almost like a dagger to a team. Is that a thing? Is that a thing, or do you at this point, if you're the Blue Jays, whatever?
Yeah, if you're a good front office, you can't look at it that way. And we talked about what involvement Rodgers would have. Would they let Mark attempt to do his job and to be realistic about where his team was? My problem with the Blue Jays, frankly, right now, is I feel like they dipped their toe a bit. Mm-hmm. So they didn't really do what the Marlins or the Rays did, which is replenish and really change the makeup of their team, because it may work, it may not. But to me, you don't want to be in the middle. And I got the feeling that the Blue Jays were sort of in the middle. And I wonder how much Rodgers had to do with that, because I get it as the owner. You'd say what you said. Hey, man, we can't embarrass ourselves. We've still got a month and a half, 2 months of games at home. We have all this money that we put in. We don't want to upset the fans, et cetera. But I think the worst thing you can do is be mediocre. And I'm pretty sure that's where the Blue Jays are. So let's see what happens here over the next few months, because I remind you, as we start August, that we are 6 months away from spring training, which is nothing. And so it's an important 6 months in my mind for the Blue Jays.
David, I would think you're talking about the dude that plays first base, who has a 12-game hitting streak, hitting a little over 500 and slugging almost 1,200. That would be a tough sell for a fan base if you traded him. Like, that's what I'm talking. I think that's what you're talking about, right?
I am, but yeah. Listen, it's funny you're saying that, because if he were 0 for his last 18, does that make it better?
Well, it'd be an easier sale for sure.
But who are you selling? Because I get it, because that's the way owners and fans are. But you've got to look at it when you're running the team differently, because you don't want to deal with recency bias. Oh, my God, he's hot now, we can't trade him. You want to make sure you've got your plan in place because you're not trading him. I want to make sure the Blue Jays did this purposefully, not on a whim based on the past few games, because you've got to look at the whole body of work over the past few years and think about where the team is and where you want the team to be, and then commit to it, build around it. But are they doing that with Vladimir? I don't know.
Take guts. That's for sure.
David, can a GM save his job at the trade deadline?
No. It's funny. We've talked about this, I think, where in 2021, what AA did, where he got Soler and he got Rosario and Duvall, and it just worked and led to a ring. We've made moves that led to nothing. And every GM has good deadline deals and bad ones, but you really can't evaluate them. Let's not carnate Peter Bendix as the best GM in the world right now, because we don't really know. Remember when Jeter came in and traded Stanton and Yelich and Ozuna and JT Realmuto, and everyone was like, oh my God. But now everyone's like, geez, those guys stunk who we got back.
Yeah.
You can't know that in a day. It takes more than that. And so I don't like doing winners and losers at the deadline because there's no way to know at the moment. The Braves wouldn't have been a winner in 21. They would have been a loser, and they were the biggest winner of all time.
If the Orioles do nothing else except what they've done already, have they done enough in your mind? Are they sort of on par to what you thought they were going to do and not just sort of throw it all in and go out and try and get a Scooble?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's so interesting about the Orioles is that they're trying under their new owner. They're both being aggressive, but they're also understanding that they built that farm system to make the big league team better. They're graduating players onto the team, as you've seen with Rutschman and Henderson. This is what they do. But when it comes time to get a controllable pitcher like Rogers, you do give up farm system depth. You give up close to major league ready pieces because you're getting 2 years of a pitcher at a reasonable cost who posts every 5 days, which in this league is really tough. Lower fastball velocity than he used to have, but who doesn't? And I love that opportunity because that's why you want a farm system. You don't want to be the number 1 ranked farm system all the time. It's the worst plan ever. You want to be in the top third and then get rid of them all, either by graduating them or trading them, and then go down, and then you do it again. So the teams that are always at the top of farm systems, count me out.
You know, it's funny. I had a chance to talk with Rock Kabatko, who covers them. And I can never pronounce his name, but covers the Orioles for Mass. And we were talking about new ownership. And I said, boy, you know, would it be great to take over that team, new ownership. You got a loaded farm system, but you can go for it this year and you know, maybe move one of those young guys. And his point was, you know what? People are so in love with him because he's not Angelos. And this is a homegrown team with everybody loves going to watch young players play, right? Everybody wants to see their guys play. His point was there's still that honeymoon period here. The idea that you have to go out and try to win it this year, that's kind of not there. Everybody's just kind of happy now. When's Jackson Holiday going to be here? And it's almost as if he's got a little breathing room. Now, maybe that ends next year, or maybe that ends if they go out in the first round of the playoffs. But it's kind of true, isn't it, that right now they're kind of sitting in just about the perfect position.
Well, there's a great example right here in Miami when I'm not in Miami. I don't know why I said that. When Derek Jeter took over for me, basically he spent the next year saying, hey, everything he did, I'm going to do the opposite, and you're going to love me because you hated him. Mm-hmm. Guess what? He got fired because he didn't know how to do his job, and that honeymoon can go away very quickly if you don't win. But the Orioles are really well positioned. You know, we had Hyde and Freddie Gonzalez was our manager. Both those guys were our manager, actually. Hyde was an interim for a game, I think. And but he was a coach for us for a while. They've got stability. They've got youth. They've got players outperforming their contracts.
Right.
If you think about where the Orioles are, does it remind you at all of a team called the Toronto Blue Jays when they had young position players not close to free agency and they were put together to win? The question is, will they? And in Toronto, we found out. And in Baltimore, we're going to find out.
Ever done a favor for a player? What I mean, like Trevor Richards just got traded. He's done it all. Like, I mean, he's not been real good lately, but he's done everything they've asked. Opener, every inning. Like, they've abused him. They traded him to the Twins. Like, that's a solid. I didn't get a ton back from him. And nobody's ever heard of that guy they got back for him. But it seems to me
Danny
like maybe
Jansen maybe too.
Yeah, like I don't know about the Danny thing, but that, you know, I sort of, have you ever done that is my point. Like, have you ever done a dude a solid?
The biggest favor I ever did for anyone was a player named Mike Mordecai when we signed him so he could get his pension and he could get 10 years of service. And we did that for Jim Beattie too. We named Jim Beattie like an assistant pitching coach so he could get his full pension. But in terms of trading players where they want to go, that's really not that interesting to me. If there's two identical, wait a minute, there's never two identical trades. So we would look at the trade and would we ever do a punitive trade? And the answer is we talked about it plenty. Is there any way to move a particular player to the crappiest team ever where you don't like a guy and you send him to like the White Sox this year, something like that, but never did it. You really don't want to cut off your nose to spite your face because you only have so many assets and you can't waste them doing either a favor or doing the opposite of a favor.
Would you yell at me if I said the Guardians are the best team in the American League?
Well, I would just say, are you looking at the standings? Because I think they are. Isn't that how we're judging this time of year?
Maybe,
did somebody catch them yet?
It's hard to say. We don't even talk about them ever.
It's funny. I'm nothing personal. I try to talk about them. I love Cleveland, and I love the fact that they're winning with a first-year manager. And I think about Terry Francona and him walking away. They do it because they just find a way to win games, and they do it because they've got solid pitching, solid bullpen, and look at their position players. It's funny. You just brought up something great as it relates to Vladimir Guerrero. Let's talk about Lindor.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an example. The Cleveland Guardians trade Lindor. They don't sign Lindor long-term. It's the end of the world as we know it, Michael Stipe. And now look where the Guardians are. There's always another player. There's always another way to win. You can have the best player in the world named Shohei Ohtani and never play in October the way the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim never did. So it's not about one particular player or being married to that particular player. You've got to be able to build a team. And the Guardians, when you look at them, man, they are a team.
All right, so you were executive with the Marlins. Trade deadline passes. Your team plays a game. You go in the clubhouse afterwards. How different does it feel after every deadline? Is it that noticeable?
Yeah, so we would meet with the team before the game. Post-deadline, it depends when the deadlines were midnight, we do it the next day. When a deadline is like this, 6 o'clock, you do it before the game. I can't believe MLB scheduled an afternoon game on trade deadline day.
Bizarre.
That is completely ridiculous, by the way. Side note, I don't care what the union regulations are. You don't do a game in the afternoon of deadline day. It's absurd. But with the deadline being just in 43 minutes, I think we're live right now, you have to meet your team. And there's sort of a sigh of relief for the players who are there. They get to call their families and say, all right, we're good. We're not moving. There's also some resignation if your team did not add and your clubhouse was hoping they would. There's relief in a clubhouse when you may have been broken up. Let's say the Giants, if only Cobb goes, is there a sense of relief? Does it help them go? My message always was, all right, we brought in help. Now you take it from here. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, because as you guys know very well in baseball, there's a lot of games, and it turns out that what you do on a particular day doesn't matter, but then the days add up, and that's how you form the story of a season.
By the way, the Miami Marlins have just traded Brian De La Cruz to the Pirates for a minor league right-handed pitcher. So there you go.
It's smart. There's absolutely no
Peter Bendix
reason
is collecting. No, there absolutely isn't. Hey, in that market now, though, are people going to buy what Peter Bendix and ownership is selling?
People sure as heck haven't been buying anything that the Marlins have done for the last 30 years.
Right.
So I don't really know. Peter Bendix, he's doing it right, but will it work? We don't know. There's no reason to have a De La Cruz on your team. And certainly we knew Scott was going to get traded. That's a very smart move to make. I understand the trading of Rogers. You collect as many as you can. Remember, Peter comes from Tampa. It's never about the name on the back of the jersey. It's always about trading players, maybe even a year too early, but you never want to trade players a year too late. You never don't want to maximize the value. And keep in mind, Bruce Sherman, when he hired Peter Bendix, wants so badly to emulate Tampa. Well, he's getting what he wished for, but the question is, can you have the success that Tampa has had? We don't know, but we'll find out.
Now all he has to do is build the underground city and get get the minions, get the khaki-clad minions.
Good luck.
Beavering away. David, thanks so much for doing this, man. Always great to talk to you.
Best jacket in baseball, David,
that's
right
an
there.
outstanding jacket. Take care.
Have a good
Let's
day.
see ya.
All right,
Thank
you too, man. David Samson, host of Nothing Personal, the podcast with David Samson. That is a great
stuff.
jacket.
It's tremendous.
And we're going to have Caleb Joseph in a few minutes. I'm going to talk to him about the mood in the clubhouse after the trade deadline.
That mood ain't
it's
good in the
5:20.
Blue Jays
We'll take the break now. Is that all right if we take the break now and get Caleb in here?
Well, you're the leader. Do it.
Okay, I'll do it. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan and Sportsnet. All right. No, I'd rather tell the Ron Gant story on air than
Seriously, dude,
deal with the trade deadline. It is
you're
Blair
the
and Barker.
worst human alive. You literally are the worst. Isn't he the worst human ever?
Mark, get out of here. We're on TV. Our producer. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet.
First time?
We got 35 minutes before the
Chad Green gets
expiration
traded.
of the trade deadline.
I mean, let's go.
We got a little more than an hour before first pitch. Caleb Joseph our Blue Jay Central analyst joining us. And yeah, the
Look
Jays.
how pretty he looks.
He does look pretty.
Mm-hmm.
The Jays trading Trevor Richards today for Jay Harry. That's the only move the Jays have made today so far.
Go ahead, say it.
No. And we're still, there's still a possibility, I guess, Kiermaier, Green are two guys we've heard. IKF, under control. He might be a guy. I got to tell you the truth, Caleb. I want to ask you this. When Chris Bassett came out a couple of starts ago and was asked, what's your goal for the rest of the year? He said to pitch in the playoffs.
Basically, never pitch here again.
I mean, that's
basically what he said.
I put two and two together and came up with basically that's like a trade request to 18 other teams. So, all kidding aside, he doesn't get traded tonight. What's his mindset?
Well, he's a professional, and so he's going to be a pro, and he's going to go out there and do.
He's getting $20 million a year.
Exactly, and I think he cares about how he's perceived and what his job to do is, and he's a pro. He's a pro's pro. I will say, as you get to the back end of your career, and especially once you've made a little bit of money and you've accrued service time, and you've played in the playoffs. That's all you want to do. You'll want to play in the playoffs. And so I know it's a huge disappointment for Bassett, Barrios, Gosman to be at this stage of their career and not be able to play in the playoffs.
Trade deadline comes and goes. I don't know whether it's John Schneider, Ross Atkins, whoever. What happens in a clubhouse when the trade deadline finally passes? Who comes down and does anybody come down and say anything? Or do you just go about your business and here we are. This is us.
I've had it both ways. I've had it where a manager came down and said, okay, guys, now this is where we're at, and this is how it's going to look. It's going to look a little bit differently. Don't come in my office and ask me why you're not playing against this guy because that guy's going to play. And, now's the time to really show and bring your best because there are going to be waiver claims left and right. And a lot of people think that once the trade deadline is over, your roster spot is a little bit secure. Maybe a guy like Davis Schneider or Ernie Clement, Addison Barger. These are the guys that I think about. A number of different pitchers that are going to be cycling in and out, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Now is the time you have to actually earn it, and GMs find ways to start shuffling guys even more than they would. You might see a player up here for 2 weeks out, waiver claim, try this guy. And so it's even more hectic for me post-trade deadline for a non-guaranteed roster spot guy for 2025. They have to go out and earn it right now, or the club is going to be actively searching for other replacement opportunities.
We've heard front office say they're going to run it back. How do you sell that to the guys that are going to be here next year?
Well, you give Vladimir Guerrero Jr. whatever he wants. And you say, here's our franchise guy, and we're committed to winning, and this is the staple piece, and we're going to build around him.
Just want to jump in. According to Mark Feinsand, the Pirates are acquiring Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Blue Jays, according to source that Mark Feinsand of MLB.com. So,
Pirates. Interesting.
They've added Brian De La Cruz, and now Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
They got the best pitcher in the National League. Why not?
Right. And I actually thought that Turner might be a fit over there to kind of supplement Rowdy Tellez. This isn't surprising. He can play a multitude of different positions.
Yeah.
Years of control, massive, especially for a low-budget team that they know the fixed cost of what he's going to cost next year. They will give up a little bit extra to get Kiner-Falefa. I hope it's a good return. It should be, in my opinion, an everyday big leaguer because he is a good player.
Okay, I just asked you the question. How does the front office sell that to the three starting pitchers that we're thinking are coming back next year? The shortstop that we're thinking, if you're running it back, it better be with the shortstop and the dude playing first. And I'm throwing the right fielder in there, I guess. How do you sell it when you're basically giving up? Now, I'm not saying you're not supposed to do this, because this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
I just want to jump in. According to Feinsand, Double-A outfielder Charles McAdoo, who is the number 29 Pirates prospect for MLB Pipeline, is going to Toronto for Kiner-Falefa.
Hit left-handed or right-handed?
You're going to make me do some work.
Absolutely.
Wait later. But a Double-A outfielder.
I hope he hits homers because I don't want to hear about another speedy, athletic-looking guy who's got
Contact
10 homers. I want corner power. Please.
You ain't
Give
getting
me
that from
who's
them
leading
dudes.
the IL in homers? Or is it what's the division? Triple A now.
Loperfido
Used to be
was doing it
IL
for
and
a while.
PCL.
Yeah.
Who's leading it? Go get that guy. Like power. And I know sometimes it is the last piece of the puzzle to develop, and you want this and want that. But if you're going to give away Kiner Fluff, for me, you're looking for power, and
I mean, I will
don't
say
see it.
this. I will say this. This is, the Jays have kind of very quietly, without telling people they've done it, they've shaved some payroll off.
that
And
was the second piece.
I wonder if there's an opening here. We still got half an hour in the deadline. I wonder if there's an opening here for someone else. I mean, we've heard Dylan Carlson, the St. Louis Cardinals looking at moving Dylan Carlson. I'm just throwing that out there.
That's a little for IKF, though. If that's the only person coming back, that's
Yeah,
we don't know. Well, we don't know. Did you think Teoscar Hernandez was a great return? Well, no, I'm just saying, you don't know. This guy could be good. This guy could be nothing. It's like
it was a big league.
It's like I tell people with Bloss, he could be really good. Could be Anthony Kay. I mean, you don't know.
That's true.
You just don't know. Hey, I wanted to ask you, because we haven't had a chance to talk to you. So Danny Jansen goes to the Boston Red Sox, and I've always wondered about trading catchers at the deadline. And the amount of work, especially now, I know you got PitchCom and everything, and does that make it easier for Danny? The fact that he does have that, at least once a game goes, he's got that to fall back on.
I absolutely feel like the PitchCom device expedites the learning curve. I remember when Jeremy Hellickson was traded over to Baltimore when I was with him, and it took 3 solid starts to figure him out. And I had no idea. And I'd been around a little bit at this time. I had no idea what he wanted. And putting down different signs and shaking, the pace of game was absolutely atrocious. But that is going to absolutely expedite the learning curve for Danny Jansen. Don't forget Reese McGuire's over there. They have a rapport. They know how to speak each other's language. And I think trading in the division is a best-case scenario for a catcher, because you've seen those pitchers so often not only hitting against them, but you've seen them on the sidelines, and you know their reports going over them as an offensive player. And so you have a better idea. There's always going to be about a 4 to 6 week, in my opinion, adjustment period where you have to know these players.
I just wonder, you seen anything from Kirky that'll tell you he can catch 4 days a week?
To me, it's not about what he does with the bat. It's about, can he physically be able to get back there and maintain bat speed at game 85 to 100 and be healthy enough to do that. And so I think
you can say no.
Yeah, I think he's a platoon player. I think even in his bet, just look what he did. All-Star in 2022, and he platooned the next year.
I mean, the guy that I've kind of, and Kevin and I have talked about this, and I wonder if the Jays have talked about it internally, but he's not an offensive player, but Martin Maldonado's out there right now as a free agent. And I mean, I don't know. Do you think of bringing a dude like that in, just saying, here, just go and catch our guys? Just a name, but I mean, I don't think it would hurt.
I would think you got to figure out whether Kirky can do it or not. No.
I think
55 games less. Let's play him.
My opinion is I would be looking for a supplement there that does something similar to him. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to give him 120 games and see if he can figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I feel like what I've seen so far is that he is probably best suited for 85, 90, and then you're handing it over and you're a straight platooning at the catcher position, which is another reason they might need a little bit extra payroll. If you're going to bring back a Jimmy Garcia, if you're going to bring back Kikuchi, you need to shed payroll somewhere. I think it's possible. I think both of those guys really like to come back, but financially, can they do it? I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't seem like they can do that.
Best mood you've been in post-trade deadline, worst mood you've been in post-trade deadline as a player?
Mood.
Well, 2019 was still a pretty decent mood, even though we weren't really winning. 14 was the absolute best because we had acquired Andrew Miller.
Right.
And we had acquired a couple other solid pieces, and it's like, here we go. You just knew. You just knew this is it. There was no question. We knew exactly what we needed. They went out and got it. Everybody's fired up, firing on all cylinders, and it just propelled us right into the playoffs. 18 was probably the worst when the team lost 115 games, sold off so many players that I had really grown up with and played with for a decade, much like Danny Jansen. That was the only organization I had known, and players that I had literally been with for years and years and years, that was the worst mood because literally you see an era coming to an end. And I'm not saying it seems like an era is coming to an end here by any means, but there is going to be a massive shift in personnel.
Is this Vladdy here forever?
I think he sells in this market. I think fans are intrigued by him. I think they love him. He's the number one question that I'm asked on a daily basis every time I walk around the city of Toronto. Yeah. Either what's going on with Vladdy, what's wrong with Vladdy, or man, can you believe what Vladdy just did? And he has appeal. Now, I know he is the guy, but the point that I would really be cautious if I'm a front office member is, does he want to be the guy? And I feel like Vladdy wants to be a piece of the puzzle. He doesn't mind being a big, large piece of it, but if he is the only piece and you put little tiny crumbs around him, I'm not sure he succeeds in that role. But if you supplement him with other nice pieces, I think he does what he does right now. Yeah. Just look, he doesn't have any pressure right now. He has no pressure, and so he's going off.
Say you're sorry,
so when he
Jeff.
Doesn't have to be the guy,
say you're sorry.
You're going to see some natural stuff come out. Yes, some of the mechanics have changed, and that's allowed him to do that. But sometimes tension makes you do certain things. I think I think he should be here for a while. I think he wants to be here, and how could you say no to that?
Because it starts with 3. That's how you could say
he'd go cheaper than that.
Oh, you would? Not a chance.
I honestly think that the last year and a half was big for him. I think he kind of realized, you know what? I want to get paid, but maybe I'm not a Soto. Like, I'm really good, but I don't know if I'm Soto.
Well, and,
Soto gets 5, I should get 3.
But it's interesting when you point that out, though. I wonder, too, if Vladdy were to go someplace as a free agent, he would likely be the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a chance that you go someplace. If you're Vladdy, you're a free agent, and you sign a big contract, yeah, you may go to a team that has another hitter around you, or you may be the guy they're bringing in around their other young guy.
Let's not forget his age and that he signs a 7-year deal. There's another one behind it if he performs.
Exactly. I know you got to go and do some Blue Jay Central stuff. I know it requires
you guys enjoy it.
So much makeup.
Lay off the caffeine, man. He's fiending over here. He's ready to go.
Well, it's funny is every time I write, it's like it makes me happy, and that's a lot. So you just see in Jeff's face whenever, because he pushed back on that note, told the first 2 months, it's just part of life. Nah. And I'm saying, it's funny how that's a little tenser. You tend to chase.
Blind squirrel finds nut.
Ooh.
Newsflash. See you, Caleb.
Big squirrel.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. Caleb Joseph, who you can catch on Blue Jays Central
looking sharp
tonight. It is.
Hopefully, he's got a belt.
I left my belt in Nashville. I don't know. I mean, there is a thing. There are those pants you don't need a belt.
You're sitting down anyway. So what difference it make?
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
Although we usually those beltless pants are the ones you get when you're 70 and there's a little
suspenders.
There's a little creep over. Sansa belt, they used to be called, I think. Yeah. Caleb, thanks for doing this. Caleb
Good
Joseph
job, buddy.
joining us. So there you go. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa off to the Pirates for Charles McAdoo. And again, we'll see. There's still 21 minutes and 17 seconds left. Keep in mind that does. Yeah, and again, we need to find out. I can't imagine there'd be any money necessarily going in that deal, but that does save the Jays a little bit of money, and getting below the luxury tax threshold makes a difference. Ben Nicholson Smith just summing up 7 trades and 13 prospects back for the Blue Jays. 11 of those 13 prospects have been position players, which will make Mr. Barker very happy. Many of them are lefty hitters or switch hitters. Apparently the Marlins are on the verge of making another deal. Hey, why not?
Why not?
Why not? Hey, this is interesting. AJ Pierzynski had Eno Steros on today. I hadn't thought of this on Foul Territory, but they were talking about the trades that were made. And if you look at the Kikuchi deal and the Eric Fetty deal, the Astros valued, you say, Kikuchi more than the Cardinals valued Eric Fetty. If you told me that at the start of the trade deadline, I wouldn't have believed that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure why either. And again,
they got it. They have to, their underground city must see something, Kevin. Because I
don't know. I know. Well, we heard Dana Brown come out and basically say we're all in. We're going for this thing. I mean, he sort of backed himself in the corner to have to make a move, right? And that meant he was going to have to give up a little bit more than he actually, I'm sure, wanted to give up. So Yeah, I don't get it either. I mean, again, I don't. He's number 5 on a good team. If that's what you're looking for,
you
got it.
MLB Network just showing the Dodgers. Michael Kopech, Ahmad Rosario, Tommy Edman. I expected more from them, didn't you? The Dodgers? And
yeah,
we still have 19
crochet, snail, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we still have 19 minutes left.
Dodgers not the bully on the block anymore.
No, I don't think they are.
This is what the Padres are thinking.
Yep.
And they're thinking the same thing, that you're sitting around just going, watch a Dodgers game. They ain't great. Watch a Braves game. They ain't great.
No.
Like you got the Phillies, look, I mean, they're going through some things, and it's hard to go back-to-back years and go deep, right? I mean, I know they didn't win it, but it's like, if not, again, this is, if you're thinking the Padres, if not now, win. Like, that's the whole thing, right? You get hot, you get on a roll, you get the right guy up at the right time. You get one of their studs like Vladdy hot at the right time, and you hand it over and make it a high school game, which is what they're sort of trying to look like they're wanting to do. Who knows?
The New York Mets acquired reliever Huascar Brazoban from the Marlins. That was the other Marlins.
Yeah, how about a Guardians-Padres World Series?
I mean, I like what the Guardians have done, very quietly.
It's just hard to take the Guardians serious, but I want to. I want to with the bullpen they have, and that dude plays third. That is, boy, he is something else. Like, just normal fan can relate to that guy. Like, he ain't ripped, he ain't the fastest guy on the planet. Like, he does everything that you're supposed to do as a stud baseball player, and looks sort of like that. I mean, it's just kind of cool to watch him and do it from both sides of the plate. And he's just a headache for another team to try and figure out, and I love it. And maybe we should start paying more attention to the Guardians.
So 17 minutes, just under 18 minutes left in the trade deadline. And Geoff Blum will join us, by the way, at the top of the hour. We'll take a deeper dive into the Astros prospects, particularly, or the players coming to the Blue Jays. I'm particularly interested in Joey Loperfido.
Ask him why they wanted Yusei.
Well, I'm sure he'll have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is gone. Who does that help get a full-time job next year?
I don't think they're here. I think they need an everyday third baseman. I think Horowitz, with what he's done,
he's your second
defensively,
baseman.
backhand, side to side, up and back. Up and back has been his, like, I don't want to say kryptonite, but he's had to work really hard on feeling comfortable enough to going back and feeling the heat of the dude running in. It's a weird thing, the dynamic between the outfielder and you when you're not used to being there and taking charge and those kind of things.
It's a hell of a way to get a career-ending injury.
Yeah, who cares? I mean, it's about raking. Like, he's raking. That's the whole thing, right? And you're going to play better defense when you're hitting the ball the other way and not chasing and doing things against lefties. And he battles against those guys. So I don't think he's here.
Just out of interest sake, Ben Nicholson-Smith, a little more information on Charles McAdoo, described as a power over hit prospect. He's hitting .315 with 14 homers, 17 steals in 87 games at Akron. No, I don't think that's at Akron. Just at Double-A. He is a third base outfielder. That is the guy that the Jays got for.
Just mentioned third base.
That is a guy that the Jays.
Did he say on there what he hits, lefty or right?
Oh my! Well, hold on to that for a minute. Jeff Passan just reporting, and it is the Jeff Passan, not a not a fake Jeff Passan. The Baltimore Orioles are finalizing a deal to acquire outfielder Eloy Jimenez from the Chicago White Sox. Sources tell.
That moved the needle.
Gives them another bat.
That's what they needed.
I want to see. Well, I want to see what the fallout. I want to see what the fallout is. Now, Eloy Jimenez
hurt all the time.
Yeah, but what does he give them in terms of? I'm just looking at lefty righty bounces.
You got me all excited. I thought it was a Scooble or.
No, it's not. It's not a Scooble. I'm just trying to look. He's. It's right. I mean, I don't know. That might suggest that that would suggest to me that perhaps they're moving one of their outfield prospects. They've already moved Stowers. Maybe they're moving somebody else. And they look at Eloy Jimenez as a guy who could be there. Just trying to see how many years he has.
I mean, when he's healthy, he's good. But it's rare that he's healthy enough to contribute. And
Yeah,
I mean, he can be a middle-of-the-order bat when he's healthy, like the things he does offensively.
Yeah, and there's also,
got right center field power, which don't grow on trees.
I've also got to say this too: is that boy, it'd be hard. The White Sox have been a mess ever since they did the stupid hiring of Tony La Russa. Like, I just can't imagine. He's making He's 27 years old, making $13 million this year. He is a free agent in. He's in the middle of a 6-year, $43 million contract. Club option for 2025. Club option for 2026. And then he's an unrestricted free agent at 30. So
yeah, you got rid of Hayes. You need a left-handed. You need a right-handed thumper who can get rid of lefties. That kind of thing. I'm sure that's sort of the fill in the blank for that. Yeah, look,
that is a contract dump if you're the White Sox.
There you go. I mean, that don't move the needle for me. It don't make the Orioles one way or the other. Yeah, like I would. Coming away from this, who's got the edge in the American League? Have the Yankees done enough? Not really. Like, it's about health. Some of the guys they're counting on are, Giancarlo Stanton's one of those guys I think needs to step up. He was on a roll a little bit before he got hurt. Now he's coming back, and like, it's just, again, like, they're all of a sudden there's just not a front runner. Like, you went back and forth between the Yankees and the Orioles. I guess you still go with the Orioles.
Oh, I go with
when it comes to that.
After the trades, I go with the Orioles.
I guess.
Oh yeah.
Man, but you watch the two behemoths in the middle of the order for the Yankees, the things that Judge is doing and Soto does, and
that hasn't mattered.
How they look. Yeah, well, yeah, it does.
It hasn't mattered so far.
What they looked yesterday against the Wheeler and the Phillies, like just the at-bats they have. I mean, Judge is going deep, easy.
Yeah, I mean,
Judge is doing things, the at-bats that they have, that's the grinding out at-bats against good pitching. Right there it is on the TV. That you need come playoff time. So, yeah, it's hard. Also, that's why I said got to throw the Guardians in there.
Yeah.
We really do. With the bullpen they got and the third baseman they got.
I just think I think that those two, that's a pretty easy lineup to pitch to beyond those two.
Ooh.
And the Yankees. And I just don't think their pitching's good enough. Now, again, there's still, 12 minutes left. And keep in mind that quite often after the trade deadline, trades do trickle in because, they have to be filed with the league office, et cetera, et cetera. But so Jimenez is $13 million in the final year of a 6-year, $43 million contract. So it was his salary down. But I like that deal from the Orioles. I think getting another bat makes a difference. Who are they? Yeah, this is the Orioles trade deadline. Rogers, Eflin, Sir Anthony Dominguez, and Eloy Jimenez.
Mm-hmm.
They needed a starting pitcher in center field. I mean, I think they've done a pretty good job addressing their needs. And again, I do think there's also that thing about, if you're in that clubhouse right now, your ownership after years of the Angeloses, penny pinching, ownership's.
Oh, you mean the Orioles?
The Orioles. Ownership's kind of sent you a message.
Well, they got a really good team. Like that what was the only message that could be sent is one of the two big behemoths. And Crochet sort of messed that up when he came out and ran his mouth. I mean, unless it happens in the next 12 minutes, I mean, if you're running the White Sox, boy, because that would have been your moneymaker right there with Crochet.
Yeah, and I don't know how you pivot off that.
You don't. I'm assuming that's why it hasn't happened yet.
You heard the interview with Chris Getz. I mean, that's was
basically said the agent said one thing, and then you come out the next day and say just the opposite of that.
That's as close as you're ever going to come to a GM saying, I got screwed by an agent here, and it's really affected the franchise.
Yeah. Jack Flaherty's a big one too. That's very surprising that he hasn't won. So there is still some names out there that you would think some other teams like the Dodgers, like the Yankees, like you can see filling in the blanks.
The White Sox have kind of let it be known that they weren't necessarily interested in trading Luis Robert Jr. Yandy Diaz is a guy that I'm interested to see what they're saying in the MLB network right now. Yandy Diaz to me is a guy that almost has to be. If you're the Rays, why wouldn't you move?
I think it's not because they don't want to. Maybe it's just because they ain't gotten the right offer, right? The right team has not, got engaged yet. So it seems like the Rays have shown you that they'll trade anybody to anybody. They don't care. The underground city will figure it out. They'll piece it together. There'll be a bunch of all-stars running around. They'll be contenders next year because they got one of the best farm systems in all of baseball. And they're just trying to finalize that right now, right? You lose some, you fill in the blanks, you go out and you get what you need, and they'll try they'll try and do sort of what the Astros trying to do to Yusei Kikuchi. So
the Jays, by the way, are also sending cash to the Pittsburgh Pirates in that deal. So that deal is now finalized. Charles McAdoo acquired
Sounds
from
like
the
he's got
Pittsburgh
some power.
Pirates for Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and cash consideration. So the Jays did send some money along with.
Sounds like they thought highly of this prospect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Caleb's right. Like, you need, every once in a while, you need a guy that can thump.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been saying this forever. You know, small ball ain't going to play. It just don't work enough to do that.
I'm going to caution people because I know that I don't think the trade deadline will necessarily change people's opinion of Ross Atkins. I think some people will be intrigued to know that everybody in baseball says, most of the people in baseball say that the Astros overpaid for Yusei Kikuchi, but I think enough people are also smart enough to realize that, let's wait and see what that brings about. But again, I've made this point about Ross Atkins. Ross Atkins, unfortunately for him, his trade history with this organization, his history of acquisitions with this organization, he's always going to be remembered for the guy that got rid of Gurriel, Varsho, and Teoscar Hernandez. He's not going to be remembered as the guy that got Teoscar Hernandez here in the first place. And the Jays have... as you pointed out, they've added some thump, they've added some left-handed hitting, they've added some switch hitters. Pitching, I think they'll kind of figure out. They got in Bloss, they got a guy that you would have to think, unless they've completely missed on him, you'd have to think that in the very least he's a guy who's going to be in your rotation.
Yeah, he's a back end of the rotation guy. But again, I think Shi was right when he said he was hurried with the Astros because they didn't have a choice, right? And then you get called up and adding and subtracting. He's a location guy. He's not a, fastball count, and he's going to give you a fastball. Like, he's got to locate it, add and subtract, throw the breaking ball, be a little unpredictable. So you're trying to get his feet wet when it comes to that, and let him come in spring training, compete for a job next year. And sounds like there'll be some openings.
So it is 5:52, 7 minutes, just under 8 minutes left in the trade deadline. The Jays have traded Trevor Richards and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa today. Chad Green has some control. Now, the Jays had told everybody that they weren't going to trade their players under control. So much for that.
Yeah.
Chad
You
Green.
said don't listen to me.
Yeah, Chad Green. Well, because everybody lies. Everybody lies at the trade deadline. And they don't lie. They just tell fibs.
Unless they give you
what did JP Ricciardi say? It's not a lie. It's not a lie if we didn't know it wasn't a lie.
I never listened to JP.
Anyhow, so Kevin Kiermaier, as far as we know, Kevin Kiermaier, Chad Green, still members of the Blue Jays. But again, 7 minutes left in the trade deadline. And as is often the case, there will be trades announced after the deadline. Do some business. A reminder, the first pitch is 6:35.
Forgot they were playing
today. Take you right up to first pitch. Ross Atkins, the general manager of the Blue Jays, will address the media at 7:15 tonight in game. And we'll have the highlights of that, I'm sure, between innings with Show Ali on the Blue Jays game. Barker and me will be back after the game with Blue Jays talk, so we'll have plenty of time to react to the trades the Blue Jays make or don't make. We are going to step away. When we come back, the trade deadline shall be done. We'll have an update, and Geoff Blum joins us to talk about the players the Jays got from the Astros for Yusei Kikuchi. It's a busy time. It's Blair and Barker on the Sportsnet Radio Network and Sportsnet. Well, I'm sure there are a lot of folks real happy in the Jays clubhouse today. Not because the Jays just traded Kevin Kiermaier to the Dodgers and talk about doing a solid for a guy that's announced he's going to retire. Here's your chance to go out with the Dodgers.
Well said.
But the Jays are getting Ryan Yarbrough back, and the good thing is that means they won't, at least this year, they won't have to face him at any point because he's a guy that, we were kind of laughing when we heard that deal. Because Ryan Yarbrough's a funky left-hander that has tied these guys up for a while. If nothing else, he gives Pete Walker a guy he can just hand the baseball to and say, here, go do it.
I think he's predictable enough in the American League. He said he can take the ball.
Right, and the big news, that is not the big news, not the big Dodgers move of the day. The Dodgers have just acquired right-handed pitcher Jack Flaherty from the Tigers. And again, the trade deadline, 6 o'clock Eastern, has passed, but there are trades in the pipe. Those of you who follow the NHL trade deadline know this. There are trades that are in the pipeline that are probably going to trickle out from this point on.
Jay's running out of people to trade.
Well, apparently the Jays lineup is out, so that would appear.
Vladdy's in it.
Vladdy's in it, and Chris Bassett is pitching. The St. Louis Cardinals, according to Mark Feinsand, are trading Dylan Carlson to the Tampa Bay Rays.
Wow.
So the Rays
Flipped it.
Rays doing Rays things,
Yeah,
man.
they are.
Rays doing Rays thing. And again, that's a deal that has just been announced. Luis Garcia going from the Angels to the Red Sox. What else is transpiring as we speak? Nothing
Martin Perez
right
to the
now.
Padres, I think, too.
Ben
Did you say that?
Nicholson-Smith reporting pencils down. That's it for the Blue Jays. Source tells Shi Davidi and me. So let's go. The Jays have traded Kevin Kiermaier. They have traded Justin Turner. They have traded Jimmy Garcia. They've basically traded all their expiring contract guys. The only exception to that is Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. They traded Isaiah Kiner-Falefa today to the Pittsburgh Pirates for an outfielder. He's listed as the Pirates' number 29 draft pick, but again, those ratings are only worth so much, which suggests to me that somebody in the Jays organization really likes Charlie McAdoo. The Rays are getting Dylan Carlson from the Cardinals for reliever Sean Armstrong. That, according to Ken Rosenthal. The Dodgers are sending prospects Theron Lorenzo and Trey Sweeney to the Tigers for Jack Flaherty. Garrett Crochet did not get traded. The Yankees also got another bullpen piece. Enio De Los Santos has been acquired by the Yankees. So there you go. We will keep you informed if anything else happens. But Ben Nicholson-Smith and Shi Davidi reporting pencils down. That is the Jays dealing done for the deadline. And Ross Atkins will speak to the media at 7:15 Eastern Time. 6:35 is the first pitch as the Jays take on the Baltimore Orioles in the third game of this particular series. I am just checking to see if anything else is happening. We're going to be joined by Geoff Blum in a few minutes to get more details on those prospects that the Jays have picked up for Yusei Kikuchi. Jays lineup for tonight is as follows. Chris Bassett on the mound, we mentioned. It is Springer, Varsho, Guerrero, Horowitz, Kirk, Clement, Barger, Jimenez, Baroa, Joey Loperfido expected to join the team. Could join the team tonight, but maybe starting tomorrow, although that's a 12:35 game, so it's entirely possible the Jays will just say, grab a seat. But as far as we know right now, Loperfido is the only one of the newly acquired players, other than Ryan Yarbrough, one would suppose, who's going to report to the team.
Yep.
And I believe that Yarbrough, if I'm not mistaken, had been DFA'd at one point by the Dodgers. You know what? Let's. Do we have Geoff Blum, guys, or can we play? Because I want to play Joey Loperfido's. Why don't we go to the Joey Loperfido video from yesterday? This was Joey Loperfido after the trade to the Blue Jays, talking to the media who cover the Houston Astros.
How'd you find out? Was your reaction? How are you feeling now?
I'm good. I was in the dugout, and Omar tapped me and just said, like, hey, you got to go to Joe's office. So, I know around the deadline, these things always can happen, and, I knew we were probably going to make some moves. Got emotional for sure, saying goodbye to the guys, just because, this place feels like home. I wish everybody could, be treated the way I was treated and coached the way I was coached by these guys. So, loved it here. Felt like home. Excited to go to Toronto and be a Blue Jay, but just tried to thank everybody and thank the fans just for treating me so well. Made a lot of awesome memories here in a short period of time. So
you kind of thought there might be a chance you got traded?
You always know it's a possibility. Kind of the business side of the game. I know Toronto's really excited to have me. I got to talk to their general manager on the phone. So, I know I'm going to a good place, and I know, I'll be treated really well there. And it's kind of like I said, we have a clubhouse of great guys. I know they got a pretty great clubhouse over there too. So I know they got a former Astro in there in the outfield. So excited to meet those guys, kind of get acquainted over there.
Jody, what's the biggest thing you'll take away from your time with this major league club?
Just the people. I think, anytime you can put a special group of guys in a room together, they're going to accomplish good things together. So really grateful to, have been drafted here, kind of come up through the ranks here. But just the people every step of the way. I mean, from A-ball all the way up here. Just really good, consistent relationships with those people. I think that's what I'll take away.
Thanks, Joey.
That is a very emotional Joey Loperfido yesterday after the Jays and Astros pulled off that trade. He is expected to, or he is en route, I should say, to join the team in Baltimore, according to Ben Nicholson-Smith. And again, the Jays play the Orioles tonight at 6:35, tomorrow 12:35. And my guess is that Joey Loperfido is probably the first guy you will see. I know it's pretty safe, obviously, if he's joining the team in a Blue Jays uniform as a result of the trade deadline. So what are the Jays getting in him exactly? And what are they getting in Jake Bloss and Will Wagner? Geoff Blum is the Astros TV analyst and very graciously agreed to join us on Blair and Barker. Hey, Blummer, thanks for doing this, man. So what are the Jays getting in these three guys, in particular Loperfido? Because, again, I think he's the guy that we'll see first.
Yeah, good to be on with you guys. And, interesting, Kikuchi coming our way. And you get three pretty good ball players with, basically 6 years of control. And, there's always conversations about the Astros farm system, being depleted, not highly ranked yet. They're able to continue to pull guys that can contribute at the big league level. And I think you're right. As far as contributing quickly, it's going to be Joey Loperfido because that was his job here, was to be maybe that third or fourth outfielder for the Astros. He's a left-handed bat off the bench. He's got sneaky pop in that swing. If you had to make a complaint about Joey, it might be just a little bit of that swing and miss, but I think that can be attributed to, a young hitter being excited up here and facing some big league pitching for the first time, create some swing and miss. But I think that's just a matter of time before he adjusts to the league and is able to contribute frequently. He's got a good eye. That's the Astro way, is to be able to control that zone and smash pitches inside the zone. So he's going to put together some good at-bats when he starts to develop a little bit more. But he's an incredible athlete. We saw him play just the corner outfield positions here in Houston. He's made, five-star catches. He's made game-saving catches. He's got a pretty good arm, and he's got speed. So I think Joey's got probably the quickest and highest upside of those three guys that you picked up in that Kikuchi trade.
Geoff, how about you say? You say's not the guy I would think that would go to Houston. Just looking at his numbers in Minute Maid now, obviously he's facing the lineup for the Astros, so it's sort of, those numbers can be clouded. But and then you sort of read what Joe Espada said. I'm excited to get him with our pitching department so we can make some adjustments to how he pitches, how he can be more efficient. Can you maybe explain that to me? And when you've seen Yusei throw, what do you see and what do you like from Yusei?
First on what I like from Yusei is the swing and miss ability, and that's something that's talked about a lot down here with Houston, is the ability to go out there and miss bats in situations with runners on base. They love the swing and miss, and Kikuchi brings that. I think he's got 130 strikeouts and only given up 125 hits. So they like the fact that he can go out there and get that swing and miss. The velocity's good, mid to upper 90s at times. The off speed, cutting it, sinking it, curving it, they love spin rates. And one thing that they will tell everybody out here when he does come here is that quote-unquote peripherals play well at this level. And they're just going to try to enhance what they think those peripherals are. I think Houston's developed a little bit of a reputation during that Brent Strom era around 2015 to 2019 of a team that can kind of manipulate the analytics and encourage guys to pitch a little bit better. We've seen it with Colin McHugh. We saw it with Garrett Cole. We've seen it even with guys like Taylor Scott, who's in our bullpen now. They kind of turned him in to a 4-seam guy instead of a 2-seam guy. So there's little things that they'll tinker with. But I don't think it's fair to assume that the Astros are, vastly ahead of everybody else or have this magic serum that goes out there and can make guys that much better, because the league is kind of catching up on the analytics side of it. But I think they just saw something in Kikuchi that could give you 5+ innings, keep you in a ball game. And like you said earlier, allow this offense to go out there and score some runs to be able to win games. And right now, with this rotation, they desperately needed a piece that could go in there and give them 5 to 6 strong and keep them in a game.
One of the things we know the Astros are generally pretty good at is identifying, signing, and developing players that might have slipped under the radar with other organizations. They've done it internationally. I'm wondering, does Jake Bloss fit into that category as well?
Yeah, I think you have to consider, I know that there were a lot of injuries with the Astros rotation, and they were kind of put in a situation where they had to call a guy up from AA, and it happened to be Jake Bloss. But I also know, on the other hand, sitting in media dining on a nightly basis, that there were plenty of scouts coming through Houston or on the road that were actually taking a look at Jake Bloss to see what he offered. I think when Jake is right, he's in the mid-90s. He's got some good off-speed pitches. I think his slider actually was working probably his most effectively here at the big league level to get some of that swing and miss. But at the same time, you start to look at the person, Jake Bloss, and I think that the work ethic is there, and he's very cerebral. I think he's got a master's degree from Georgetown, so he's a student of life. He's a student of the game. I think he understands now, being in the big leagues, how hard it is, and he's probably going to work a little bit harder to try and stay. But I think this experience that the Astros have given him at this level are only going to make him better. Even though the numbers may not dictate that he had much success here at the big league level, I think that the experience is going to translate later on when he develops a little bit more into that big league pitcher. But there were a lot of eyes on Jake Bloss, and I know that there were other teams looking at him.
With Loperfido, because he's left-handed, that's, I think, what, if you're a Blue Jays fan, you're thriving on. Like, you just want to see that. There's a bunch of right-handed hitters here, and the lefties, other than a couple of guys, are not real good. Is there one thing that stands out to you that you think? I know he's sort of a step crossfire guy, right? He sort of closes himself off when he steps, and he's a little out and around some of the breaking balls. That may be why he has some issues with the breaking balls. Is there an easy fix? He is 25. Like, in baseball years, that's old. Like, it's getting up there a little bit. I think he should be somewhere around mechanically what he is as a big leaguer. Is there a tweak you think that could make him more consistent and make him more competitive against, say, a breaking ball?
Absolutely. I think if he actually had the mentality of trying to take the fastball up the middle the other way and try and drive it in that opposite field gap, he has quick enough hands to be able to adjust to the fastball in and yank some of those fastballs. But as well as I do, if you're sitting on 95 on that outside corner and you're getting ready to hit that pitch, and you do get that mistake breaking ball out over the plate, you're able to barrel it up and kind of pull it into that right field portion of the field. And he just gets a little jumpy sometimes. I think he's so eager to hunt the fastball that he kind of jumps at breaking balls. And sometimes that, you start to jump a little bit, the hands get ahead of the body, and your head starts to move a little bit. That's the only thing I really saw with Joey Loperfido. I think once he calms down a little bit and realizes that he can try and use the big part of the field up the middle, it'll allow him to stay on some of those off-speed pitches. But for the time being, he is ready to rage on that fastball, and sometimes to his detriment, because he chases some of those fastballs up out of the zone. And once you fall behind those 0-1, 0-2 counts, that's when you start to see some of that big league spin that can put you in a bad spot.
Yep.
Plummer, we're going to let you run, man.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for doing this. Appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, any excuse to talk to you guys is a good one, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Be well.
See you later, man.
Jeff Blum is the Houston Astros TV analyst. So there you go. Some insight on Joey Loperfido. And Will Wagner, we should have mentioned, is Billy Wagner's kid.
Mm-hmm.
Look, again, we're not going to turn Loperfido into the next day Oscar Hernandez, but corner outfielder, left-hand hitter, a little bit of pop can go get.
I think he's got more than a little bit of pop. He's got raw power, which you can't teach at. Now it's just the organization sort of helping that along. Don't laugh. Helping that along, and
you can't
getting the best out of that. Well, there's like
for a
50-some games left here. If you could see him play, and, I mean, just watch video. That's what I did. I popped it on video, and you could see right out the gate he cuts himself off. Like,
Got
maybe
some
that's
leverage. There's
it
some
does.
leverage there, too.
He's almost 6'3". Like, that's a big dude. It's just how do you consistently use it? How do you just sort of give your lower half and your hands a chance to mesh together and consistently get the barrel to different quadrants, which is what you have to do. So I just love he's left-handed. I mean, that gives him an advantage right there.
So technically, Joey Loperfido, now this is from the Blue Jays. He's reported to the Blue Jays and will be active tonight. This is just moved by the Blue Jays. Yerry Rodriguez has been recalled from AAA and will be active tonight. And I think Yariel Rodriguez was recalled earlier, which is probably no surprise. I did have something else to say about the Blue Jays, but it just... it just escaped me. Anyhow, Joey Loperfido. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Paolo Espina will get the start tomorrow night. But, I mean, that's, again, they're just bringing guys up because they're...
I ain't got nobody.
Well, yeah, they're short at this particular time. There have been some other moves made. Dylan Floro's gone from the Washington Nationals to someplace. I had it right in front of me, and I just cleared it off when I saw the Jays...
Once you read that, I got to ask you a question.
Diamondbacks get Dylan Floro. Mark Tanya's gone to the San Francisco Giants from the Detroit Tigers. If you missed it, the big deal at the last minute was Jack Flaherty going from the Tigers to the Dodgers. The Jays making a last-minute deal as well. Kevin Kiermaier, he's off to the Dodgers for Ryan Yarbrough. And Kevin Kiermaier announced his retirement last week, said he was retiring from the game. So we wish Kevin Kiermaier all the best with the LA Dodgers. Yeah. He will not hurt the Dodgers in their bid for a postseason and World Series. And quite frankly, getting to know Kevin Kiermaier a little bit, I would not at all be averse to seeing his career end with a World Series ring from the Dodgers.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a stretch. I mean, right now there's better teams than the Dodgers.
Yeah, but I mean,
I do think it's going to keep it a little easier, make it a little bit easier for him to stay on the field.
Yes.
He's not going to have to play every single day. They'll have the best of the best, exactly what the Blue Jays had to try and keep him on the field. He said this, it's hard. Like, it's hard just to get his body ready, and he'll be off turf, which is an even easier thing for him to run out there and dive around and make great plays. And, I mean, it's a beautiful place to play every day. So
this is the one of the funny things you do see happen. We saw it happen in Toronto when Jays fans won't want to remember this. Michael Young was traded for Esteban Loaiza. I believe he just had to walk down the hallway. Dylan Floro will just have to walk down the hallway now because he's been traded to the Diamondbacks from the Nationals, and the Nationals are in town, so he'll be wheeling his way down to the new clubhouse.
Here it comes. Grade it. How did the Jays do?
I don't like grading.
Well, I don't care what you like. I want you to grade it. You've been around. No, I'm just saying, did they do what you thought? They traded the right people, everybody they should have traded, they traded. Do you like that part of it? Forget about the product. Like, you don't know a lot other than I'll give them the double-A guy they got for IKF and the three dudes they got from Astros.
I'll give them a B because they traded everybody I thought they'd trade. They did better than I thought they would with their big deal, Kikuchi. If it's me, again, knowing what the market is for starting pitchers, I would have moved one of the other starters. That's just me. And Chad Green is still here. So I give him a B. And not knowing what any of these guys are going to turn into. But they did do what I thought they do. They added some depth to a minor league system that badly needed depth. Keep in mind, that doesn't mean that all these guys.
No.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I think there's when you get guys from other teams, Simeon Wood Richardson's a perfect idea. Simeon Wood Richardson got you Jose Barrios, and that's the thing to keep in mind with a lot of these guys you've acquired.
Flip them.
They can be used in the offseason.
Well, they got to do some heavy lifting in the offseason, right?
They absolutely
redo a bullpen. Like, now you got to get position players, now third base. And, I like Horowitz at second, like left field. Like, there's some things here, right?
I do know this. I look in their organization, and I'm seeing some guys who are 23, 24, 25, are either switch hitters or left-handed hitters. I like that.
Me too.
I like that.
About time.
I don't
Better
know.
late than never.
They may not turn into jack squat, but I would
They're
rather
left-handed.
take my chance. Exactly.
How do they walk to the plate? It ain't right-handed. It's left-handed, or they can do it on both sides. It's about time. Like it,
And they got, you heard Geoff Blum talk, but they got a guy who'll be up there and hopefully, if he doesn't blow his arm out in the minors, like everybody else in the minors, he could very well be a part of this.
I think it seems to me that things I've read, the video I've watched, he's more of a pitcher than a thrower, which is exactly what they're trying to get. They want guys that live on the corners. You see how many homers they've given up? That's because lack of location.
Mm-hmm.
Like the location has been absolutely atrocious. This guy seems to be a little bit better at that. You got a little something to build off of, and you like his age.
You asked me to grade this. So now I'm going to ask you this. If you put, the Orioles acquired Gregory Soto from the Phillies before the deadline.
There you go. That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask
from
you.
the left side.
Okay, I was going to ask you, one, Orioles have done enough. They got Soto, Rogers, Eflin, Seranthony, Dominguez, Eloy Jimenez. Best team in the American League right now, the Orioles or the Guardians? Guardians got Lane Thomas, so I really like that deal. Best team in the American League, though.
Here's the question. Who do you feel more comfortable doing? Orioles going to the Guardians, Guardians coming to the Orioles?
Orioles going to the Guardians.
There you go. So you answered your question. I'm sort of in the boat with that. I think they have more talent in the everyday guys.
And you know what?
Righties and lefties, and they got two MVP candidates, I think, back-to-back in the lineup.
You never want to look ahead, but keep in mind they may get Felix Bautista back next year as
and
well.
if the Blue Jays don't make a run at Santander, they are missing the boat. That dude from both sides of the plate, nobody ever talks about that guy. You seen that dude's at bats? Like, he probably makes the other dudes better.
You see, you're trying to avoid the question I was going to ask.
I'm going to go the Orioles.
If I put 100 Jays fans in this room right now, and God knows this room's big enough that we could do it, but if I put 100 Jays fans in this room right now, what percentage would say they are content, not happy, they're content with what the Blue Jays did at the trade deadline?
I think you'd have to, the first question you'd have to ask is how much they like the front office. That sort of dictates about what they think about what the front office is doing, right? I mean, the last two off seasons hasn't been real good for the Blue Jays.
There's only one thing.
So I think you know the answer to your question.
There's only one thing this front office could do right now that would get everybody on side.
I would think.
Sign Vladdy.
And Bo, it seems like. I just don't know how you make Bo happy.
You're not going to sign Bo. I mean,
that's why when I asked Shi that question and he brought that up, that's the first I heard of that. And Shi don't make things up.
Shi was answering. The question you posed was a little odd to Shi. I don't think Shi was saying that he expects them to sign both of them. I think he was saying,
"Well, it ain't odd."
The opposite.
It's a okay.
Anyhow.
Don't roll your eyes.
There you go. 6:35. First
Vladdy.
pitch. 6:35. I don't think they are either, but they'll take a run at it. 6:35.
Okay.
You don't think they will?
I think they've already taken a run at it.
I don't think they have. I don't think they've taken a serious
run. You don't think a serious
run. I don't think
run?
they've taken a serious
run. Do you think all of a sudden now, the end of this year, they all of a sudden want to?
I think they're going to take a serious run at it.
They've traded 8 guys.
I don't think they have any choice. I don't think they have any choice at this point in time. 6:35 is the first pitch. We'll be back with Blue Jays talk following the game on Sportsnet 590, the fan of Sportsnet. Blair and Barker and Blue Jays talk tomorrow as well. Enjoy the baseball.